I never imagined I'd be in this kind of situation. I'm the groom's sister, and I'm the bride. Your part in this is over now." Those words hit me like a slap. Sharp, cold, final, and just like that, I felt invisible. My name is Goldie Hawn, and at nearly 40 years old, I live with my younger brother Jack. We've been through a lot together. I've raised him since he was just a little boy, barely old enough to tie his own shoes. Our parents passed away in a car accident more than 20 years ago. I was in middle school at the time, and Jack was in pre-K. He was so tiny, so confused, he didn't even understand what death meant. I remember cradling him that night after the funeral, promising myself I'd be both sister and mother to him. I've held on to that promise every day since. Life wasn't easy, but we made it work. Between studying, working part-time, doing the house chores, and raising Jack, I didn't really have time to think about myself. I gave up high school dances, trendy clothes, even dating, but I never once regretted it. Watching Jack grow up into a kind, reliable man made every sacrifice worth it. Now, he was about to get married, and I should have been thrilled. Instead, I had a pit in my stomach. "Goldie, are you listening?" Jack's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. "Oh, sorry. Zoned out for a second. I was saying you should wear something cute for the wedding. Maybe a nice dress?" "I'm not really the dress-up type," I chuckled. "Well, I want to see you in one, just this once. You've always held back because of me." "Don't be silly, that's not true." "It is true, but you've got natural beauty, so you don't need much." Flatterer. We laughed like we always did. It was these small moments I cherished. I knew once he got married, things would change. The dinners, the late-night chats, even our inside jokes might fade into the background. Still, I smiled through it, pretending not to feel the shift in the air. "You've barely told me anything about your fiancé," I said, trying to sound casual. "Karen?" he asked. "Yes, Karen. I haven't even met her." "Oh well, she's super busy with the wedding planning." "That's understandable, but a quick phone call wouldn't hurt." "You're right. I'll ask her to call you." I felt relieved. I didn't want to be pushy, but something about not meeting the bride felt wrong. Still, I reminded myself not to overstep. I didn't want to become the meddling older sister. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and maybe Karen was just shy. That's what I thought, until the phone call. Jack handed me the phone on speaker. "Hi, Karen. My sister wanted to say hello." "Your sister?" Her tone dropped like a weight. "Why now? I'm so busy. Spa, nails, hair, all of it. I'm exhausted. A sudden call from your sister? Honestly, that's impossible." There was a silence so thick I could hear my own pulse. "A bride has a million things to worry about," she continued. "Something a sister like you wouldn't understand. I'm trying so hard to make this wedding perfect. Can you not add to my stress?" And just like that, she hung up. Jack looked mortified. I forced a smile. "Bad timing, huh?" "Sorry, sis, she's usually nice, just a bit intense." "Well, women who speak their mind are valuable," I offered gently. He looked down. "Maybe a little too much. She can be selfish sometimes." I didn't know what to say. Later that night, I lay in bed replaying her words over and over. "A sister like you." What did that even mean? Did she see me as a threat, as a burden? No, I thought. She's just stressed. That has to be it. The wedding day arrived like a storm cloud. I put on my navy blue dress, the one Jack said made me look elegant. I even had my makeup and hair done professionally. For once, I wanted to feel beautiful. I knew today wasn't about me, but somehow I felt like I was preparing for a farewell. I arrived early at the venue to greet the staff. "Hi, I'm Goldie Hawn, Jack's sister. Thank you all for your hard work today." They smiled warmly. That small act of kindness grounded me. But I noticed something odd. The wedding planner looked stressed, flitting back and forth between rooms, making calls, checking documents. Something was off. I even heard a woman's raised voice, tense and sharp, behind one of the doors. "Trouble already?" Before I could think too much, the first bus arrived, filled with about 30 of our family members. I stepped forward, greeting aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. "You've grown up so well, Goldie. To think little Jack is getting married. You've done so much for him." Hearing those words brought a lump to my throat. I blinked back the tears. This wasn't the time. "I only did what I could," I said humbly. "Thank you for being here today." As I guided the relatives inside, the second bus arrived, Jack's friends. All of them practically ran toward me, laughing and joking. "Goldie, long time no see. "Whoa, you look amazing today. You really clean up nice." I laughed. "You boys sure learned how to give compliments." Just then, I heard something that made my stomach drop, a voice loud and accusing. I turned and saw her, Karen, dressed in full white bridal attire, stomping toward me with fury in her eyes. With arms crossed, she stopped inches from me. "Who do you think you are?" she hissed. "Flirting with men at the entrance? This is my wedding. I'm the star. You're stealing attention from me." I froze. "You look ridiculous in that dress. It's cheap, tacky, not for someone your age. Just leave." I didn't respond. I couldn't. But then I caught a glimpse of the wedding planner, pale and shaken behind her. This wasn't a bridezilla moment. This was something deeper. I wanted to scream or cry or maybe vanish. Karen stood there, radiant in white, but with a mouth that spewed venom like it was part of the ceremony. Her voice was loud enough that some of the guests nearby turned their heads. "You're embarrassing yourself," she snapped. "A middle-aged woman trying to look young? It's pathetic. I told Jack not to invite any women. And yet here you are, drawing attention like it's your show." I bit my lip. Deep down, I knew reacting in anger would only feed whatever storm was brewing inside her. So instead, I smiled gently. "There's still time before the ceremony," I said. "Why don't you rest a bit in the bridal suite?" Karen narrowed her eyes. "Oh, I'll go back, but you won't be here when I return. Leave the gift you brought and get out. I'm only being polite now, but if you stay, I won't be responsible for what happens next." She turned with a huff and stormed off. The wedding planner bowed apologetically. Staff were whispering to each other, and I just stood there, stunned. Was this the woman Jack fell in love with? As I tried to gather myself, a voice called out behind me, one I hadn't heard in years. "Goldie?" I turned to see a warm, familiar smile. "Aunt Sally!" I gasped. She looked as graceful as ever, tall, fashionable, and holding her phone in one hand like it was part of her jewelry. She'd been the strongest support in our lives after our parents passed. Financially, emotionally, she showed up when nobody else did. "Oh, I'm sorry, dear," she said, holding up her phone. "I think I accidentally recorded something just now." She handed it to me. There I was, frozen, while Karen berated me, the planner looking on helplessly. Karen's shrill voice echoing through the screen. My heart sank. And then Sally, in that ever-calming tone, said, "Goldie, you've protected your brother for most of your life. Can you really hand him over to someone like that?" That one question hit harder than any insult Karen could have hurled. She was right, for Jack. And honestly, for myself, I needed to face this. Minutes later, Karen returned. Her heels clicked angrily across the marble floor. The planner followed behind her, resigned. She marched up to me again. "Didn't I tell you to leave?" I stood my ground this time. "Karen, I'm the groom's sister. I'm not going anywhere." Her jaw dropped. You're his sister?" "Yes, we haven't had the chance to talk until today. I'm disappointed it had to happen like this." Karen scoffed. "You don't matter anymore. Jack is taking over my family's business. He'll be working with us now. This is my wedding, not yours." "What business?" I asked, confused. "Oh, please. I know your situation, struggling with poverty and all that." That's when I had enough. "We were never poor," I said calmly. "Yes, we lost our parents. And yes, times were hard. But Aunt Sally helped us, and we had support from family. Jack and I both work. We live well. Don't confuse modesty with struggle." She puffed out her cheeks. Was that supposed to be cute? At that moment, Jack appeared with the staff. "What's going on?" he asked. His eyes darted between Karen and me. Karen rushed to him. "Jack, she's trying to ruin our wedding." "Karen," he said, his voice low, "what exactly did you say to my sister?" "She doesn't belong here, and you didn't pay for any of this. My family did everything." Just then, Aunt Sally stepped forward. "Actually, that's not true." Karen blinked. "Who even are you?" "I'm Jack's aunt. I visited your parents recently and agreed to cover the wedding expenses, quietly, as a gift." Karen stared at her like she'd grown two heads. "You did?" I asked Jack. He nodded sheepishly. "I was going to pay her back, little by little. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it." Sally smiled. "But I see now that maybe I should have said something sooner." Just then, two people entered the room. "Karen, sorry we're late." Her parents, sweet, smiling, polite. Jack greeted them. "Nice to meet you." Karen, still clearly rattled, turned to her father. "Tell them, Dad, Jack's going to take over your company. We'll have so much money." Her father's face froze. "Karen, what are you talking about?" "You said Jack could run things." He blinked. "Our business is a small subcontractor, sweetheart. We don't even have employees." The silence that followed was deafening. Karen turned pale. Her dad looked at Sally and bowed slightly. Thank you again for everything, ma'am. I didn't realize you were the building owner until we spoke, Karen gasped. Wait, she owns the building? And the one next to it, her dad added, and the apartment near the station. Sally chuckled. I've always liked quiet investments. Jack stepped forward. Karen, did you think I was poor this entire time? She fumbled. I just thought, you let me pay for everything. Every date, every meal, and now you're lying about me joining your family business? Karen reached for his hand. Jack, let's talk in private. But behind us, voices began filling the lobby. Jack's friends, our relatives. They'd seen the video Sally recorded. We're leaving, one of the uncles said. We can't support this wedding. Not after what we saw, added one of Jack's friends. Karen's friends were gone, just like that. The room emptied out. Jack turned to her one last time. Karen, this isn't going to work. Any further communication will go through your parents. But Jack! I'm sorry. Sally stepped in. Steph, we'll be canceling the venue. Naturally, the cause is on their side. The planner nodded, finally relieved. Understood. And, Sally added to Karen's parents, I'll need to revisit the lease agreement for your company's building. Karen's mother looked like she might faint. I looked at Sally. She gave me a wink. Then she whispered, by the way, I may have also accidentally recorded Karen stealing makeup and accessories. I blinked. What? Well, you know I'm forgetful. You're definitely not senile, I muttered. She laughed. And that's our little secret. After that disaster of a wedding day, everything felt like a blur. Jack stood silently at the entrance of the now empty venue, staring at the decorated arch where he should have exchanged vows. Instead, he was left with a heart full of disappointment and a truth that hurt more than he wanted to admit. I walked up beside him. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, hands in his pockets, breathing slowly. You okay? I asked gently. He nodded, barely. Yeah, I think so. Just, I didn't expect it to fall apart like that. No one ever does. He let out a soft, bitter laugh. I guess I needed to see the real her before it was too late. I just wish it hadn't been so public. It could have been worse, I said, nudging his arm. You could have found out after you married her. True, he said, finally meeting my eyes. Thanks for everything, Goldie, and thank Aunt Sally for me too. I don't know how she managed to stay so calm. She's magical like that. We both chuckled. But really, Jack continued, his tone softening, I've never said this properly, but you raised me. You kept me going. You gave up so much for me. Oh, I shook my head, suddenly emotional. I didn't give anything up, Jack. I lived a life filled with love. That's more than most people get. He looked like he might cry, and I knew if he did, I would too. So, I said, quickly changing the subject, the venue gave us credit for unused food and drinks. How about we go eat something fancy and celebrate your escape? He laughed. Yeah, that sounds great. In the weeks that followed, Jack stayed mostly quiet. He went back to work, talked to friends, and even joined Aunt Sally for lunch a couple of times. He was healing. Karen, on the other hand, was dealing with the fallout. The venue billed her for damages, broken decor, stolen makeup, a cracked mirror. The staff used Sally's video as evidence. Apparently, Karen had also tried to pocket some expensive accessories. And the best part, Sally accidentally recorded all of it. Oh dear, she said to me one afternoon, sipping tea with a sparkle in her eye. I seem to have filmed everything again. What a silly thing. Sally, I grinned, you're a legend. Well, I do my best. I asked her once if she planned it all, if she knew the moment she walked into the venue that something wasn't right. She just smiled. I didn't plan anything. I simply paid attention. That girl never once looked people in the eye when she spoke. That's always a sign. And she was right. Karen never once met me as a person, just a hurdle to be cleared. Jack gradually began to smile more. His friends visited often, dragging him out for late-night ramen, hikes, or random movie nights. He even started talking about traveling. One night, over takeout on our living room couch, he turned to me and said, You think I'll ever meet someone real? You will, I said with confidence. And when you do, it'll be easy. It won't feel like walking on eggshells. He nodded. I hope so. Then he paused. And what about you? Me? I laughed. I'm retired from the dating world. Come on, Goldie, that's nonsense. Well, if you must know, I smirked, your friends have been quite persistent. Jack nearly choked on his drink. Wait, what? I shrugged playfully. Turns out a navy blue dress and some light makeup goes a long way. You're joking! Nope. I've had 3 dinner invitations and 1 drive along the coast. He stared at me like I'd grown another head. What is happening? I winked. Middle-aged magic. A few weeks later, Sally threw a small get-together at her home. Nothing too fancy, just family and a few close friends. Jack looked happier than he had in months. Sally gave a small toast. "To family," she said, raising her glass. "To courage, and to the power of good judgment, even when it comes at the last minute." We all laughed. I noticed one of Jack's friends, Daniel, glancing at me across the table. Again. After dinner, he approached me with a shy smile. "Hey, Goldie, that dress again. Navy suits you." "Why, thank you, kind sir." He offered me a drink, and we stood on Sally's balcony for nearly an hour, just talking. About books, about music, about what it's like to raise someone as a sibling and as a parent. He listened. I mean, really listened. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Weeks turned into months. Jack moved into a place of his own, finally taking that step toward full independence. And me? I found myself busier than ever. Between work, friends, and the occasional date, I felt like life was starting again, not ending. A year passed, then two, and one sunny afternoon, Jack showed up at my door with someone behind him. "Goldie," he said, trying to hide a smile, "this is Maya." Maya stepped forward with a soft smile. She was gentle-looking, quiet, but there was a warmth about her that made me like her immediately. We chatted over tea. She laughed at Jack's corny jokes and listened to my stories with genuine interest. She wasn't loud, she wasn't flashy, she was kind. And when Jack looked at her, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. Later, when she stepped out to take a phone call, Jack leaned in. "I think she's the one." I didn't say anything, just reached over and squeezed his hand. Jack and Maya began dating steadily after that first visit. There was no rush, no over-the-top declarations, just two people quietly learning about each other, sharing meals, long walks, and silly inside jokes. Goldie, the version of me that had spent so long living for everyone else, started blooming in a new direction. Not in rebellion, not in desperation, but in gentle rediscovery. I started cooking for pleasure, not just to feed. I joined a yoga class on Tuesday nights. I bought red lipstick and actually wore it to brunch. And yes, I saw Daniel again, more than once. Aunt Sally, of course, noticed everything. "You have color in your cheeks again," she told me one afternoon while we shared tea. "Something's shifted." "Maybe," I smiled. "Maybe I'm remembering who I was before everything." She sipped her tea, then grinned. "Darling, I think you're becoming who you were meant to be all along." It was on a crisp autumn day that Jack came by again, holding Maya's hand, a small box in his coat pocket, and a glow on his face that spoke volumes. "I'm going to propose," he whispered to me in the kitchen, while Maya talked with Sally in the living room. I teared up. "Oh, Jack." He pulled me into a hug. "I got it right this time, sis. I know it." "I know it too." Later that evening, after Maya had said yes, and after Sally had popped open champagne that none of us expected, we all sat around the fireplace sharing stories. Daniel leaned in close beside me and whispered, "This time it feels like love is in the air for everyone." I gave him a sideways glance. "Are you flirting with me, sir?" He raised his eyebrows with a grin. "I absolutely am." Sally caught the look between us and cleared her throat dramatically. "Somebody get the cake before this turns into a double proposal." We all burst out laughing. Weeks after the engagement, Maya's parents invited us over for dinner. They were lovely, warm, well-read, incredibly down-to-earth people who adored their daughter. "We're so glad Jack found her," her mom said softly to me as we cleaned up dishes together. "She's always been the quiet one, kind but cautious. He brings out a light in her." I smiled. He deserves that kind of love. And he did. For all the years he'd been the reason I kept going, he now had someone to lean on too. And I was finally learning how to lean back. The new wedding planning was entirely different. No drama, no passive-aggressive comments, no bridezilla meltdowns. Instead, Jack and Maya held planning dinners where everyone laughed, made to-do lists together, and shared ideas without judgment. They chose a small garden venue, homemade wedding favors, and instead of a rigid guest list, they invited only the people who truly knew them. And yes, I wore another navy blue dress, this time with red lipstick. On the wedding day, Maya looked radiant in a soft lace gown with wildflowers in her hair. Jack looked like a man who had finally come home to himself. And I sat beside Aunt Sally in the front row, watching the boy I once rocked to sleep become a husband. When the vows were exchanged, Sally leaned toward me. "You did good, Goldie." I swallowed hard. We did good. The ceremony ended with a burst of applause, tears, and a kiss that promised something real. At the reception, Daniel twirled me on the dance floor like we'd done it 100 times. We laughed, nearly tripped, and laughed again. "You clean up well, Miss Hawn," he said. You're not so bad yourself." And just like that, under fairy lights and soft jazz music, I found peace. Not because of anyone else, but because I had finally allowed myself to receive the joy I had spent a lifetime giving. As the night wore on, I stood under the stars with a glass of champagne, watching Jack and Maya dance slowly, the world blurring around them. Sally joined me, her glass raised. "To love," she said. "To resilience," I added. "To not being senile," she smirked. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. "You know," I said, "I don't think you ever accidentally recorded anything that day." She tapped her temple with a mischievous smile. "The memory may go, darling, but the instincts never do." 2 years later, I would stand in that same garden, different event, same feeling. This time, it was for me. Daniel and I had decided to celebrate our partnership in our own way. Nothing grand, just family, close friends, and a quiet commitment to walk together side by side. Jack was my best man. Maya cried through her entire speech. Sally danced to every slow song and a few fast ones. And I stood in front of people who had seen me through every version of myself. Daughter, sister, second mother, wallflower, caretaker, and said aloud what I had never dared to say before. I deserve joy too.